C-17 aircraft taking off on a line and thousands of elite paratroopers boarding. Their destination is the Middle East. Iran is in shock, and the whole world is watching what comes next. And this is not science fiction. This happened now, in 2026. And if you still don't understand the gravity of what's happening, you're in the right place. To understand what's happening today, we need to go back a few months. In February 2026, the United States and Israel carried out a series of joint military strikes against nuclear facilities in Iran, the largest American military operation in the Middle East since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Starting in late January 2026, the U.S. conducted its largest concentration of forces in the region in decades, mobilizing air, naval, and missile defense resources amid escalating tensions with Tehran. And since then, the chessboard hasn't stopped shifting. On March 30, 2026, two American officials confirmed to Reuters thousands of elite soldiers from the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division began arriving in the Middle East as President Donald Trump assessed his next steps in the war against Iran. These paratroopers, based at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, joined thousands of others. Sailors, Marines, and Special Operations Forces were already in the region. The previous weekend, approximately 2,500 Marines had also arrived in the theater of operations, representing one of the largest military mobilizations in recent U.S. history. The C-17s, the world's largest tactical transport aircraft, were the backbone of this mission. The reinforcements included the headquarters of the 82nd Airborne Division, logistics units, and a full combat brigade. The troops could be used for various purposes, including an attempt to seize Kharg Island, responsible for about 90% of Iranian oil exports. Consider the weight of this. Taking Kharg Island would cut off Iran's financial oxygen supply. Without oil exports, the regime would collapse economically within weeks. There was also discussion of using ground forces within Iranian territory itself to remove highly enriched uranium, an operation that would keep American soldiers deep inside Iran. None of these decisions have been officially confirmed, but the mere presence of these troops sends a message that Tehran cannot ignore, and Iran responded with retaliation. On February 28th, the country launched dozens of ballistic missiles and drones against American and Kuwaiti targets. Most were intercepted, but the message was clear. Experts worldwide warn, this conflict cannot be understood merely as a regional war. It is part of a much larger global dispute, also involving China and Russia, which monitor every American move in the Middle East. And there's more. With the Strait of Hormuz under tension, the price of oil has skyrocketed. The whole world feels the pinch from what happens in that region. What we see here is not just a military move. It's a message. The U.S. is willing to go far, very far, in this conflict, and the 82nd Airborne Division is not sent for routine patrols. This is the troop the Americans send when they want to say, "We are ready for anything." Iran understood. The world understood. The question now is, how far will this go? If this content helped you better understand what's happening in the world, I need a favor from you. Click like now, because it really helps the channel grow and continue bringing you analyses like this. And if you're not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button and activate the bell, because the situation in the Middle East changes every week, and you'll want to be here when the next chapter of this story comes to light. Have you ever stopped to imagine what it means to see dozens of C-17 aircraft crossing the sky in a line? Each one carrying elite soldiers, heavy weaponry, war equipment, all with a single destination, the Middle East. This isn't a scene from a movie. This really happened. And when Iran understood what was coming, the silence in Tehran was more terrifying than any explosion. Today I'm going to tell you, step by step, how the United States mounted the largest military mobilization of the century, and what that means for the entire world, including Brazil. Stay until the end, because what comes in the next few minutes will change the way you see this war. To understand why the C-17s are flying towards Iran, you need to understand what happened in the previous months. In January 2026, Trump announced that a veritable American armada was moving towards the Middle East. Aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines. At the same time, the U.S. presented Iran with three demands that were impossible to ignore: a permanent end to uranium enrichment, a severe limit on ballistic missiles, and a complete cut in support for groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Iran tried to negotiate. In February, there were indirect talks in Oman, but it didn't work. On February 28, 2026, Israel and the United States launched a joint and devastating attack against Iran, dubbed Operation Roaring Lion by Israel and Operation Epic Fury by the Pentagon. The target? Military and nuclear facilities, and the supreme leader himself, Ali Khamenei, who was assassinated in the attack. The Middle East would never be the same again, and that was just the beginning. Now let's talk about the protagonists of this story. The paratroopers of the 82nd Airborne Division and the C-17 aircraft that brought them here. The C-17 Globemaster is the heavy truck of the American Army. It can carry up to 77 tons of cargo, land on improvised war runways, and reach any point on the planet in less than 18 hours. When you see a fleet of C-17s taking off, you know the U.S. is serious. And the 82nd Airborne Division is no ordinary troop. It's a force specifically trained to enter hostile areas, secure key positions, and guarantee landing and footholds in enemy territory under fire if necessary. The trigger. On March 30th, 2026, these soldiers began arriving in the Middle East. Based at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, they joined a war effort that already included Marines, sailors, and Special Operations Forces. But here's the detail few noticed. The 82nd Airborne Division isn't sent to provide base security. It's sent when the plan is to act. So, what's the real objective of having thousands of elite paratroopers positioned at Iran's gates? I'll give you 3 possibilities, and each would change the world in a different way. Kharg Island is responsible for about 90% of Iranian oil exports. Taking or neutralizing this island would be equivalent to cutting off the regime's blood supply. No oil, no money. No money, no war. Ground force operations within the territory itself were also discussed. Iranian forces are working to remove highly enriched uranium, material that could be used to build a nuclear bomb. Such an operation would require American soldiers to penetrate deep into enemy territory. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz has severely disrupted the global flow of oil. Approximately 20 million barrels per day normally pass through it. Army Rangers and Navy SEALs have also arrived in the region, with the strait identified as one of the possible targets for the operation.